First, the theory of self-reliance. Values, rely on the masses, for the masses. Chairman Mao, if you want the people, there is a way out even though it is dangerous. If you don't want the people, everything will be dark. Methodology, mass viewpoint, mass line. On the basis of believing in the masses, relying on the masses, and serving the people wholeheartedly, the method of coming from the masses and going to the masses is adopted, that is, gathering the opinions of the masses, scattered and unsystematic opinions, after research, into centralized and systematic opinions, and go to the masses to make propaganda and explanations, turn them into opinions of the masses, make the masses persist, see them in action, and test whether these opinions are correct in mass actions. Gather together, and then go to the masses to persevere. Such an endless cycle, each time more correct, more vivid, and richer. Opposite tendency. Chairman Mao, it seems that the fewer people, the better, and the smaller the circle, the better. People who hold this kind of small clique doctrine are resistant to the idea of mobilizing all positive factors, uniting all those who can be united, and turning negative factors into positive factors as much as possible. Leadership art. Chairman Mao, if we seize and spread advanced experience, we can seize everything. It can be said that these constitute the main content of self-reliance, and can be said to be the foundation of self-reliance. With this set of methods, we will have a strong ability to survive. It may not be able to achieve great development, but survival is no problem. Second, two-side theory. Values, find out the two sides of things, starting from the positive side. Chairman Mao, when analyzing the specific actions of the opponent, we must pay attention to these two aspects of the problem. Methodology, benefit from adversity. Chairman Mao, promote the bright side and attack the dark side. Opposite tendency. Chairman Mao, one-sidedness. One-sidedness is the absolutization of thinking, and it is looking at problems metaphysically. Views on our work, affirming everything or denying everything, are all one-sided. Even treating the enemy as a monolith is a closed-door approach to analysis. Leadership art. Chairman Mao, we should adopt an analytical and research attitude towards everyone and everything. Everything takes an analytical attitude. 1. Two sides of things must be found and discovered, and each side represents a possibility. 2. It must start with positive possibilities, that is, the idea of exerting all positive factors. The two aspects are the basis of taking advantage of adversity. If the two aspects cannot be discovered and identified, benefiting from adversity cannot be realized. For example, the Long March has two aspects. One is the Long March and its failure, the other is the propaganda team and the seeding machine, and at the same time it facilitated the formation of a new leadership, success. Third, the positive and negative conversion theory. Values, towards overwhelms correct and walking, and everything can be transformed. Methodology, find out the conditions of towards, point out the conditions of towards, and promote towards. Chairman Mao, grasp the conditions for the realization of the chosen possibility as a link in the chain. Opposite tendency. Chairman Mao, absolutism is often at work in daily life. Going beyond reality to pursue the realization of ideals is the same as escaping from reality. Most of all idealism is absolutism. Leadership art. Chairman Mao, it is absolutely necessary to prepare for the worst possibility, but this is not to abandon the good possibility, but a condition for striving for the good possibility and turning it into reality. That is, 1. Find out the positive side, find out the negative side, and find out the conditions for the transformation of the positive side and the negative side. 2. Based on the negative side, strive for the positive side. For example, thinking about failure before success is based on the preparation for failure and striving for the result of success. 3. Good possibilities cannot be discarded, and bad things can also become good, so the method of transformation is adopted. Reality has its twists and turns. It is difficult to walk in and make mistakes, but towards is possible. Extension. 1. What the enemy supports, we oppose, and what the enemy opposes, we support. Meets the requirement to start from the backside. 2. Defeat the enemy by the enemy's way. In this way, towards can be realized. 4th, the central link theory, affecting the overall situation. Values, firmly grasp the central link. Methodology, find out the center and solve the central link. Chairman Mao, this is a central link among many links in the present period. If the problem of this link is solved, other links can be solved smoothly. For the wandering of the center, it is a sure way to lose. Opposite tendency. Chairman Mao, it is because they lack political experience, cannot recognize the direction in major events, and do not understand the differences and connections between the part and the whole, the past and the present, and today and tomorrow. Leadership art. Chairman Mao, we must pay close attention to the current central work, but do not relax even if it is not the current central work, but it is indispensable. Don't just pursue simplicity, grasp one thing and give up the rest. Require. 1. Partial work must be combined with the current central work. 2. The achievements of local work should be reflected in the central work. 3. The central work has a great effect on the performance of the partial work. If you do not enter the center, the partial work will easily be wasted. The so-called center is that which can affect all links and mobilize the overall situation. The solution of the center will drive the formation and solution of all other parts. 5th. The theory of being in a position to be defeated first. Values, do not gamble on national luck, do not toss coins, prepare for 2 possibilities. Methodology, put yourself in a position where you can deal with both possibilities. Opposite tendency, only one possibility is prepared. For example, this time you are focused on dealing with the enemy in the west, you did not expect the main force of the tank corps to go north, and you did not prepare in advance to concentrate the maximum force in a suitable position. You can fight the 5th Army and the 11th Division from west to east, or you can fight from south to north. The 74th Division and other departments. This is to prepare for only one possibility, and the result is to be defeated by the enemy with another possibility. Leadership art. Whenever the situation is uncertain, our main force should be located in a place that can cope with the 2 possibilities. For example, when will the fight end, and when will the negotiations end? I said, talk or fight, peace or peace. This means that both preparations for war and peace must be prepared, and each prepares independently, and the 2 sides only cooperate in strategy and do not cooperate in campaigns. For example, in order to prepare for possible unexpected situations, the order also proposed that the enemy should attack our army on the 14th or not attack our army. The battle plan formulated in this way is invincible. It can be dealt with when the enemy comes, and it can be dealt with when the enemy does not come. It has great flexibility. Extension. 1. Actions and actions should have both positive and negative sides. For example, a partial retreat in an attack, an offensive in a defense, correcting a mistake while giving consideration to encouragement, hitting and pulling, the position must be able to advance and retreat, etc. 2. Invincible, defeat the enemy with possibilities that the enemy is not prepared for. 3. Fight against fight, pull against pull. 4. To retain a strong reserve team. For example, Buffett keeps a lot of cash, which is not to gamble and be invincible first. 5. Acquiring and securing the initiative. Both possibilities can be dealt with, so you won't be passive. 6. Break the theory. Values, unity overwhelms everything, greatly reduces the attack surface. Methodology, united front, utilizing contradictions, selecting and arranging battlefields, and breaking through from weak points. Opposite tendency. It is very dangerous to attack too much, and we must immediately change the policy. And those who do it alone and don't want allies. Leadership art. The policy of exploiting contradictions, striving for the majority, opposing the minority, and defeating each. Only by fighting for the majority can we oppose the minority. We must take care of the overall situation, take care of the majority, and work with allies. It is very important to work with allies, which requires winning allies. If the allies are willing to work together, it means that it is more likely that only a few are opposed. Extension. 1. Encirclement and anti-encirclement. The layout must form an encirclement of the enemy, and when surrounded by the enemy, it must be splitting from the enemy's encirclement and sticking out of the circle, so as to survive. Acknowledge the enemy's limitations, but break through the enemy's limitations. 2. Isolation and anti-isolation. The layout should form the isolation of the enemy. This requires unity, at least one half more of your own strength, Unite to 90% of your strength, and use 90% of your strength to attack the 1%. It is not to ensure your own purity, but to ensure that you are eclectic and universal. Chairman Mao, in the Ruijin era, the organization was the purest, but there was a shortcoming. The form was pure, but it isolated itself, the political power was unstable, and it had to move. Moving to Yan'an, the organization is not pure, showing flexibility. For example, Chairman Mao, the Long March of 25,000 li was not because of the United Front, but because it was too pure. Purity often also means isolation. Having cleanliness is sometimes good, but more often than not, it is not good. 3. One ebbs and another. To form a trade-off, this is the easiest way to achieve each break. Chairman Mao, I think the best way to deal with them is to ignore them and let us find another way and create another environment. Let's look at a few examples of Chairman Mao's ignorance tactics. Chairman Mao, I think the best 01 ignore to increase the opponent's difficulty. No matter how he abuses and attacks, the party Central Committee and Zhu, Pen, Ye, and Xiang will ignore him for the time being, and wait until he becomes so angry that people can't step down, and then come out to speak and express our attitude. This is different from the attitudes that lower levels and local parties should express at any time, but it is a good way to deal with the Kuomintang at present. Because Chiang Kai-shek is in a hurry, we are not in a hurry. During the Southern Anhui incident, due to the exposure of the Civil War, Chiang was under great pressure from the Soviet Union, the United States and the people in China. Therefore, 1. When the great pressure is on the other side. 2. The other party is in a hurry, but we are not in a hurry. At this time, you can ignore it to increase its difficulty and force it to make concessions. Here, ignoring is a way to increase the difficulty of the other party, and it is a way to buy time, so that the impact of the matter can fully ferment. In particular, the 8th Route Army should take advantage of Jiang's policy of differential treatment. The issue of the new 4th Army does not involve the 8th Route Army. Except for middle and lower levels that can support the new 4th Army, the headquarters should adopt a silent attitude. This attitude shows that there is room for it, and the other is also a demonstration, and the military should adopt a defensive attitude. So, 1. Ignoring has a demonstrative effect. 2. Ignore while preserving leeway. At this time, ignoring, put yourself in a position where you can both advance and retreat. Therefore, ignoring is an action that has both positive, advance, and negative, retreat, and it contains dialectics. Leaving room means that there is a backhand, and there is a backhand in everything, since it is life and life are called easy, which means that it is feasible and easy to do later. Therefore, ignoring in this case is a winning technique. 02 Ignoring is determined by inevitability. Chiang Kai-shek has arrived in Shenyang, just to cheer up his subordinates who have lost confidence. Whatever he says or does, you ignore him at all, and resolutely follow your 9 o'clock telegram every 3 days to do it. This is 1. When the words and deeds of the other party do not play a decisive role, you can ignore what he says and do, and ignore the noise. 2. Under necessity. As long as one's own action arrangement has the absolute inevitability of the result, no matter what the other party does, he can ignore it and just act according to his own arrangement. Conversely, if the result of the opponent's actions has absolute inevitability. For example, the general trend is bound to be difficult to last. Regardless of the outcome of the decisive battle, Taiyuan and the whole of North China are in danger. At this time, you can also ignore the opponent's specific actions and the intermediate process, and build your own action deployment based on this inevitability. 03. Ignore to keep your rhythm. In short, make great strides forward and retreat, regardless of the gains and losses of a city or a place. Take the initiative to fight, first attack the weak enemy, then attack the strong enemy, mobilize the enemy, and defeat them one by one. When your own method can achieve the ultimate goal. 1. In order to ensure the initiative of the main factor, annihilating the enemy's vital forces. 2. In order to free oneself from secondary factors, constraints and limitations. 3. To follow through and immerse yourself in your own rhythm. At this point, the role of secondary factors, the gains and losses of one city and one place, can be ignored. That is to say, in front of the main factors, the secondary factors can be ignored. In the face of decisive factors, non-deterministic factors can be ignored. This is a rhythm confrontation between the two sides, and we must ensure that our own rhythm wins. This is also a strategic confrontation between the two sides, the strategy of annihilating the living forces vs the strategy of capturing the city. The high-level strategy must lose the low-level strategy. In ancient times, seizing a city meant capturing population and increasing combat power. In modern times, urban population does not equal combat power, because weapons and combat power require additional training, so capturing a city in a short period of time cannot increase combat power. Therefore, as long as the opponent's gains and losses cannot substantially strengthen the opponent, then such gains and losses do not need to be overemphasized. By ignoring it, you can avoid falling into the opponent's rhythm and ensure your own rhythm. 04. Ignoring is to stop the enemy from developing. You have already gained the initiative, and if the enemy comes to the south, you ignore him and still concentrate on completing the Gentai campaign, so that the enemy will be completely passive. This is a very correct policy. After the completion of the Gentai campaign, one should not be confused by the enemy's actions at all. Choose the weak part of the enemy to actively destroy it, and decide which part to attack at that time. This is the policy of attacking the weak first and then the strong. You attack yours and I attack mine, each fights its own, that is, the policy of completely active warfare. In this example, it would be possible to 1. Don't be mobilized by the enemy, but make the enemy's backhand spread out. If you ignore it, you will stop the enemy's backhand from unfolding. 2. Guarantee your own rhythm, while the opponent's rhythm cannot be developed, which gives you the initiative. 05. Ignore it and make it profitable. Don't ignore it, don't respond, only respond to its agreement, not its content. When the other party initiates an event that is completely beneficial to the other party but not to your own side, you can ignore it, do not respond, and do not respond to its content. When it is necessary to step on, this event can be placed in a separate process without affecting other existing event processes, so that this separate process has only the minimum intersection and minimum correlation with other processes. In this way, the other party will have no opportunity to take advantage of it and cannot use it for profit. 06. Ignore to cut off the various internal connections between the opponent and one's own side, and reduce internal resistance. Regarding this policy, Zhou Enlai also made a very good explanation. The imperialists always want to retain some privileges in China and want to sneak in. Several countries want to negotiate with us to establish diplomatic relations. Our policy is to wait. First, clear away the remnants of imperialism in our country, otherwise there will be room for them to operate. The military power of imperialism has been driven away, but the economic power of imperialism in our country for more than 100 years is still very strong, especially the cultural power. The impact is still deep. This situation will affect our independence. Therefore, we have to clean the house before establishing diplomatic relations, clean the house and treat the guests. Ignoring is also a kind of waiting. By ignoring and waiting, you cut off the various connections between the opponent and your own side, and prevent its influence from penetrating into your own side, and the opponent will not be able to exert its influence. In this way, a greater degree of independence can be obtained and internal resistance can be reduced. 07. Ignoring is to replace one aspect and gain new life. Chairman Mao, there are 2 points in 1 point, one thing contains 2 different aspects. When one's own side is in the worst possibility, it is also necessary to find out the 2 sides of the worst possibility, start from the positive side, and promote the positive side to replace the negative side. For example, the Long March, which is almost in the worst possible situation, achieved a new life by ignoring the physical retreat, but establishing the propaganda team and the spiritual offensive side of the seeding machine. For example, running from the city to the countryside can be considered as resolutely ignoring the city, and going to the countryside to gain a new life for oneself. By ignoring one aspect, the city is one aspect of the old China, and promoting the other aspect, the countryside is the other aspect of the old China, a new life is gained. 08 The upgraded version of ignoring, you hit yours, I hit mine. The horoscope of you hit yours, I'll hit mine, a necessary tactic requires ignoring, and then you can execute you hit yours, I'll hit mine, otherwise this horoscope, just talk. To sum up, this is a wonderful tactical strategy and a great wisdom. Ignoring it is to be distinguished from closed-doorism and isolation. Ignoring it is a tactic of reinventing the wheel and is offensive in nature. Closed-doorism and isolation, without reinventing the wheel, are driven by fear and dread, and are retreating in nature.